90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. Welcome to another edition of From the Press Box on this 17th of August, 2020. My name is Rob Leonard. Joining me, of course, is award-winning sports writer and my brother, Tim Leonard. Hello, Timothy. How are you doing?
Good morning, brother. And I'd like to wish my brother a happy early birthday, since his birthday is in a few short days.
Why, thank you, brother. It's on the 20th, but you will turn another year older on Thursday. That's the day before Beatles songs.
That's
right, and of course you're born on Christmas, and you share the birthday with Jesus Christ, among others. But I share it with Robert Plant and Al Roker, Connie Hayes. I mean Connie Chung. Isaac Hayes.
What was that the Beatles said about Jesus Christ? Robert Plant could probably say the same thing.
Nah, I'm sure, it depends on what song you're listening to.
Very, very similar.
Anyway, brother, remember what I said last week about...
I don't, brother. Please refresh my memory.
You should. You should write everything I say down.
You said so much last week, so I don't know which one you're referring to.
I said the Islanders were going to destroy the Capitals. Well, maybe not destroy.
I don't recall you saying that, but if you did, well done.
I said that the
that's
Islanders...
exactly what has happened.
It was going to take care of the Capitals. I don't know what exactly I said, but you were like saying, well, the Capitals are this really good team. And I'm like,
they are a good team.
I know, and they don't look like a good team in this playoffs because the Islanders are playing so well. You know, it's hard to believe this is the same team that before they shut down the season for a while was in a slide, really. Islander fans were worried they weren't going to make the playoffs.
Lost 7 in a row. Again, I don't want to make light of it. I don't, want to feel good about it. But yeah, the Islanders before the season was halted were among the worst teams in hockey, and right now they're looking like one of the best teams in hockey because it's not an easy thing to make the Washington Capitals look as bad as the Islanders have made them look in the last 3 games.
And it's typical Islander historic ways of how the Islanders historically win is through defense. When they have a defensive coach, they play, the Al Arbor, all the teachings come back, even if it's a whole new team. This team has been playing fantastic against the Capitals. They're going to make the second round of the playoffs, which is fantastic. They might make the third round of the playoffs too.
Well,
I'm not sure of the Stanley Cup Finals. Well, I'm not sure of the finals yet, but you can on this because that's what you have to be thinking right now.
No,
if you're an Islander fan, you can.
It's the playoffs. It's the playoffs. You can't get ahead of yourself in the playoffs.
Yes, you can.
The whole cliche of the one game at a time, that's playoff hockey.
But you know what I'm talking about, brother.
I do know what you're talking about. And are the Islanders playing very well right now? Yes. Is there reason to be optimistic? Absolutely. But the way you get in trouble into the playoffs is when you start thinking, wow, wouldn't it be great to be in the Stanley Cup Finals? Yeah, let's get there first. All right?
Well,
there are plenty of other teams who are playing well right now. And right now, the Islanders, hey, I have absolutely no complaints with how they're playing because they are playing that well. And when you're up on a team like the Washington Capitals, 3-0, it's that I don't even want to take this series for granted yet because the Capitals certainly are a team that is capable of winning 4 in a row. And do I think it's going to happen? No, because history says it's a very unlikely thing. But let's get past the Washington Capitals, then let's see who the next opponent will be, and let's go from there because so much can still go wrong.
If you want to think less enthusiastic, brother. Anyway, the Islanders were, I don't know if they were the last team, but the 75 Islanders were down 3-0, and they came back also. So it can be done. We've seen it, at least in our eyes, in our generation, that a team can come back. And Washington was probably a better team now than the Islanders were in 75. The Islanders in 75 were just starting to become the Islanders.
I will give you a stat, brother. There have been 194 teams who have been down 3-0 in an NHL playoff series in history.
Right.
Four of those have managed to advance. That is a a percentage of 2.1.
Yeah, well,
so it's like they said in Dumb and Dumber. You mean there's a chance?
There is a chance. That's what you got.
There is a chance, but that's it. There's a small, very small chance. So
I still remember watching that series, brother, because it was an NBC game, and some Islander fan had, I guess they were down 3-0, and some Islander fan held a banner, a very small banner. It said Toronto 1942.
Right, they were the first ones who did it. I think the Penguins did it later on. I can't remember who else.
Yeah, and except for maybe Stan Fischler, no one knew what that meant. And towards the end of the game, I guess back then research was different, and they finally realized what the fan was talking about.
Right, you didn't have Google back then. You didn't have the history of the world at your fingertips if you just typed in a few choice words. But yeah, that's what it was. And you know, let's face it, Stan Fischler probably he was there since the beginning of time, so of course he should have remembered.
Right,
but. Again, this Islanders team, you have to remember that things obviously are going well right now. But let's not forget how the Islanders were in March when the season shut down. They were a bad hockey team. They couldn't do anything right. The defense was terrible. I remember talking about them in March, and that was the one thing I remember talking about was the Islanders were giving up 4 and 5 goals a game. They couldn't stop anybody. So right now we are seeing what we saw last year with the Islanders and Barry Trotz and playing that style of hockey. They're playing great defense. They're scoring more than I expected them to. Game one, I'll tell you what, game one infuriated me because all I watched was the referees giving the Capitals power play after power play, and that is the Capitals' most dangerous weapon. Because then you get to stick Alex Ovechkin over on the left face-off circle, and he's crushing one-timers at the goal. And they move the puck around, you get the goalie's feet moving, and all of a sudden, boom, it goes to Ovechkin, and crack! He's sending a 100-mile-an-hour slap shot towards the net. I was literally screaming at my television because it was one soft penalty after another, and here comes another power play. So it looked from the start like the league was just desperately trying to give the series over to the Capitals immediately. But the Islanders held, and the penalty kill was good. They gave up a power play goal, and in fact they gave up 2 power play goals, and they were down 2-0. The Islanders wound up getting a goal just late in the second period, and that goal was crucial. Then the third period was, I have no qualms about saying this, I think it was one of the best periods, if not the best period the Islanders have played all season. And it was, they dominated the Capitals in that period. And it was a beautiful thing to see because here comes, it was Eberle in the second period, I'm looking at it right now, and then Anders Lee, who in the first period got into 2 fights, and I was like, dude, stop getting into fights. We need you on the ice, and especially he was getting in fights with the Capitals goons. But he got a goal. Like Eberle scored 18:57 in the second period, and then Anders Lee scored at 51 seconds in the third period. Right. And now you have a game that looked like it was being pushed in the Capitals' direction. Now it's a new game, 2-2, and then another penalty or later in the third period, but Josh Bailey winds up getting a shorthanded goal. So thanks, ref. Keep calling those penalties. We'll just score a shorthanded goal on you. And then Anthony Beauvillier, who had a great series against the Florida Panthers, bangs in another one at 11:55. And when that happened, the game was over because that's 8:05 left in the game, but you could see the massive swing that had taken place by then. The Islanders were dominating play. There was the one point in the third period where the fourth line just had the puck in the Washington zone, and it was incredible because here's Ovechkin on the ice and he can't do anything, and he's got Cal Clutterbuck running around behind the net, hitting everything in moves, and Cizikas is back there cycling the puck, the Islanders' third line must have held the puck for like a minute and 10 seconds. And the Ovechkin line did nothing. The puck was into Washington and the entire shift. So that was telling me this is what's going on. This is what the Islanders can do when they're going well. And it was so beautiful to see. And that's when I knew this game is over, because the Islanders with a 2-goal lead, when their defense is doing what their defense should be doing and is expected to do, nobody's going to score 2 goals on them in a period like that. So I was extremely confident at that point, and it's then. But the second game 2, I'm thinking, all right, you know what? Game 1, Capitals. Game 1, the Capitals need to even the series. Let's see how it's going to go. And the Islanders played probably even better in the game 2.
Yeah, they've played
Nelson,
better each game. It's like they're on an ascension right now.
That third period for me was the springboard to all of this, because in game 2, Ovechkin scores in the first minute of the game, and as soon as he scores that goal, you can start thinking, you can let your mind get away from you and start thinking, all right, the Capitals are just going to take this one, because they are. I mean, in theory they're the better team, because obviously they have more points this year. They just won the Stanley Cup 2 years ago. It's not like they've lost a lot from that team. But when you have Ovechkin scoring a goal in the first minute of the game, that's an issue. That's the worst possible start. And again, you're thinking, all right, you know what? Hey, Capitals going to win this. The series is going to be even. But the other issue that we have right now is this whole neutral site thing, and I think it's been a big deal for hockey, because let's face it, if the first 2 games would have been in Washington, and then the second 2 would have been in New York. So in theory, the Islanders have won both games in Washington, and now we're at
no, good point. This is where the difference is of what the whole season is. And I've gotten so used to seeing like the same rink and the lack of crowd. I mean, obviously there's taped in noise and stuff, but
right.
It's gotten I've gotten very used to the whole thing. You don't even realize, we could use the Coliseum crowd right now, or but it's not necessary, because first of all, the Islanders are winning, but second of all, it's not going to matter at this point, because obviously it's all in one place. So,
and when the Islanders score, they've been playing the horn, that horn sound that the Islanders use in when they score goals at home. So they've been replicating that. So when the Islanders score, they feel like they're in the Coliseum, because you hear the big whatever it is, train whistle or whatever.
Yeah.
But that blasts through the arena.
Right, in Game 3 yesterday.
Let's hope we hear more of that.
Yeah, yesterday Barzal was the hero with an overtime goal, and that's incredibly important that a guy like Matt Barzal gets more involved scoring wise, and even on overtime stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was obviously, it was a big goal for the Islanders, because any overtime goal is going to be important. But it was huge for Barzal, because obviously the Capitals are keying on him as the main cog in the Islanders' offense. It was such a basic play too. He takes the pass from Eberle, and that was where you kind of saw Barzal's speed, but not in its raw form, like when he's coming up the ice and he's wheeling. But he was able to use the speed to get a little bit of a jump and an angle on the Capitals defenseman. And then it was just a quick deke on Braden Holtby, and he pulled it backhand, and it was easy then. It was at that point, it was easy. He pulled it backhand, goal. Thank you very much. Let's go celebrate.
Yeah, it was good to see the Islanders winning in overtime. I always think that helps team a little more than just winning a regular game, so to speak. They're just playing so well. I mean, I might be ahead of myself on it, brother, but I feel very good about this team that I didn't feel back in March. So they're just, maybe they're just on a winning streak right now. Maybe the next series they just fall apart. I hope not, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but here's the great stat from Game 3. Alexander Ovechkin, the guy who scored more than 700 goals in his career, one shot.
One shot, man.
One shot for a guy like that. And think about it. He's out there on every power play. You're expecting to get shots on a power play, and he is their target guy on the power play. One shot in the entire game and went to overtime.
Right, and he only has one goal for the whole series, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I believe you're correct, brother.
Yeah, so that says a lot about how they're taking care of him, in a good way. Making sure.
They obviously, Ovechkin is the Capitals guy, like Barzal is the Islanders guy. You got to keep an eye on him. You got to make sure that you don't lose him, and that he is accounted for on every shift. And the Islanders have done that, and that's. But as for yesterday, the goal, Barzal, the other thing about the Barzal goal, that goal very well could have killed the Capitals. And I say that in a way of they're in a 2-0 hole. They know they need that overtime goal. Otherwise, they're looking at the end of their season. But now they are in a situation where they know we have to win 4 games in a row. We could have won this game in overtime. We probably could have won it in regulation. But now we are in trouble because winning 4 in a row is hard,
very hard, and
so, especially when you haven't really been playing all that well in the first 3. That's a big switch to flip, and I obviously I don't think the Capitals are capable of doing that. There's not a lot of teams that are capable of doing that, but right now the way the Islanders are playing, I think the series is over. I think it goes 5, but I think the series is over.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's a 4-0 Islanders thing. I think just they're playing so well. Let's talk about the Yankees, brother. Stan and Judge are on the injured list.
And the machine joined them, brother.
Yeah, what is of these two guys? They keep getting hurt.
Aaron Judge is a weird case because I heard what happened with him. And at first, the injury was described as lower body tightness, which sounds like some kind of weird NHL injury because that's what they do. It's upper body or lower body. They don't like being specific in the NHL. But Judge tried to talk the Yankees in and said, "Look, it's not that bad. Let's not put me on the IL. I don't want to miss 10 games, et cetera, et cetera." But now they put him on the Yankees put him on the IL because the Yankees are always cautious with injuries. They don't want an injury to turn into something bigger. But yesterday, Sunday, Aaron Judge pronounced himself 100%. He's been on the IL for 3 days, and that's what I was hoping that the Yankees would do because they made it sound like it was nothing. And Judge again was lobbying to not go on the injured list. But Aaron Judge on Sunday said, "Hey guys, I'm 100%. And all he needed was a few days rest. So good. Give him a few days rest. There's no reason. You don't have to replace him. You got 30 guys on the roster right now. It's not like you have to put him on the injured list to bring up another guy. There's plenty of guys around.
Right.
So instead, they put him on the injured list. Now he's not going to be able to be activated until Saturday. So the Yankees are going to have to go an entire week without Aaron Judge, who, when they put him on the injured list, was the hottest player in baseball. 9 home runs, 20 RBIs. He was looking at being the American League MVP for the short season. But now a week of not playing is obviously a much bigger deal in a 60-game season than it would be in a 162-game season. Like I said, I understand why the Yankees did it. I disagree with them what they did though, because they could have. Let's put it this way: if they don't put Aaron Judge on the injured list, chances are you're going to have him back on Tuesday or Wednesday anyway. Because they kept describing the injury like a grade 1 is the lowest level of strain.
Right.
They said it was less than a grade 1, which to me sounds like, all right, he's a little bit fatigued. He played on that lousy field down in Tampa, and a lot of guys after that happens, their bodies don't feel right because it's like playing on cement down there. But all right, so give him a few days off. Just let him say, all right, hey, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to get some rest. I'm going to, I'll feel better. So they could have had him for 4 or 5 more games. Instead, Aaron Judge is out until Saturday, and that's the part I don't get. Is let these? I'm not saying that players should manage their own injuries because we saw what happened with Noah Syndergaard the last time when that happened, and what a disaster that was.
Right.
But if the medical people show that it's not a significant injury, then I don't know why the rush. Just all right, we're going to put this guy on
especially since they have 30 players on the team now instead of 24.
Right,
25.
that's what I'm saying. There's no desperate need to put him on the injured list. You have the bodies are there already. The replacements are there. They So I mean, but the only positive quote unquote that accomplished was that it brought Clint Frazier back up to the major leagues. And Clint Frazier, I tell you what, he's ready. It's time for the Clint Frazier. I don't want to say era because obviously there's other bigger names as far as eras, but Clint Frazier needs to be an everyday major leaguer at this point because he's done nothing but hit since he came up, and it really at a ridiculous level. Frazier was the guy that was summoned from the alternate playing site, whatever they're calling it, and he is batting since he came up, and that's including a 1-for-4 yesterday. He's batting .533, which is 8 for 15, with 2 home runs and 8 RBIs. That's unbelievable. And I'm not saying he's going to do that for the rest of the season, because obviously that would be a ridiculous statement. But this is a guy who, you talk about young players taking advantage of an opportunity. He can't take much more advantage than what he's done. And I love Brett Gardner, but it's time for Clint Frazier to be an everyday outfielder for the New York Yankees, and for Brett Gardner to become a 4th or a 5th outfielder. And I know Yankee fans are not going to be happy about that. I know Yankee fans who don't like Clint Frazier's attitude. They think he's cocky. They think he's too arrogant. But a bat like that needs to be in the lineup, and it needs to be in the lineup every day. And for the Yankees to not do that, or at least most of the time. I love Mike Tauchman. Mike Tauchman's been a very good player for the Yankees. A very, very much a surprise player for the Yankees, because when they got him, nobody knew who he was. And he has turned into a productive outfielder for them. But, Brett Gardner, I love having him around for the veteran leadership. I love having a guy who's been with the Yankees for more than a decade to be out there and show the younger players what to do and how to do it. But I don't know how you don't play Clint Frazier at this point in his career. The kid is a hit waiting to happen every time he steps into the box. And to leave him out and to just like hold him off because he's young and we have other guys. It's either you play him or you trade him and you get something really good in return, because he's either going to be a Yankee and he's going to be a really good Yankee for a long time, or he's going to be somebody else's borderline Hall of Famer for the next decade after you trade him. But one way or another, Clint Frazier certainly deserves to be in the major leagues on an everyday basis.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's proven himself. He's, it's tough to decide who's going to be the next big guy, and I think you sort of have to say he might be the next big guy. Really, I mean, he's good. He's shown it, and I give him credit, because last year, obviously, some negative things happened in the field, and he had that horror show in right field when he was in for Judge a couple times. He has improved his defense. He made a great play the other night out in right field, and that's one thing that the Yankees have said is he went down to the went back down to the minor leagues, and he really focused on improving his defense. And I saw something yesterday on ESPN E60 about Pete Alonso, which is really good stuff. I recommend that if people find that and watch it, because it talks about Alonso and his life and what he had to do. But one thing Pete Alonso had to do in the minor leagues was basically relearn how to play first base, because he was not a good first baseman coming out of college. And Tim Tuffle, remember Tim Tuffle? With I do, yeah.
Was the guy responsible for teaching Pete Alonso how to play first base in the instructional league in the year between AA and AAA. And I'm not saying Pete Alonso was a great first baseman, but I'll tell you what, he's turned into a serviceable first baseman. And if the guy's going to hit 50-something home runs, then serviceable is really all you need. But that was the difference in Pete Alonso becoming a major league player. And that is what Clint Frazier did last year when they sent him back down to the minor leagues. He said, look, I need to be a major leaguer. I deserve to be a major leaguer. But right now, my defense needs to improve significantly for that to happen. So let's make that happen. What do we have to do? And let's get it done. And for me, because I saw him in right field the other night, and somebody hit a ball to the corner, and it was really similar to the fly ball that he botched last year. Completely botched, where he took a horrible angle. He misplayed the ball completely. It turned into like a 3-run or a 3-base error. And Frazier went back on the ball the other night and made the play and made the play the way it was supposed to be made. And I was like, wow, all right, this kid has improved. When you see basically a similar play and he makes it the second time the way it's supposed to be made, that's when you know this kid's been working and he's been doing what he has to do to make himself better. And that impressed me more than all the hits. And the bat is very impressive to begin with. But when you see a play that he was horrible on last year, and you see him make the play the way it needs to be made on defense, I couldn't have been more impressed. And I was, wow, this kid, he's ready. That play on defense made it for me. He's ready. Never mind. Right. The bat's been ready for 2 or 3 years.
This past week, the Red Sox became the pinatas again for the Yankees. I mean,
here's a stat for you, bro. Here's a stat for you.
What's wrong with the Red Sox, Tim?
They're terrible, first of all. But I'm going to say the Yankees in the last 24 games against the Red Sox, 19-5.
Wow.
Do you remember not so long ago, brother, when the Yankees and Red Sox would play, and pretty much you could rely on the season series being about even, and it would be 10-9, somewhere around there. They play 19 times this season in a normal season. The Yankees would be 10-9, or the Yankees would be 9-10, but it was pretty much that kind of battle where the Yankees and Red Sox would go at it, and it was pretty much even. Well, since last year, the Yankees are 19-5 against the Boston Red Sox. That's not incredible. A rivalry, brother. That's not a rivalry. It's a butt kicking. And the Yankees, all they did for these 3 games was just expose the Red Sox. The Red Sox pitching is atrocious. It's worse right now, in fact, far worse than even the Mets pitching. And the Mets pitching, we'll get to that later, how bad that is. But the Red Sox pitching is a joke. They don't have a rotation.
Well, Nathan
Eovaldi, that's the problem. But Nathan Eovaldi is the only thing masquerading as a starter for the Red Sox. Eduardo Rodriguez, who looked like he was going to be their ace this year, is on the shelf because of heart problems that were caused by COVID-19. So that he's the guy I point to when people say, well, they're younger athletes, COVID doesn't do anything to them. Well, Eduardo Rodriguez has a heart problem now because of COVID-19. His future as a pitcher is in jeopardy. So when don't say anything stupid like COVID-19 doesn't impact young players and they're athletes, they're in great shape. Well, great. Tell that to Eduardo Rodriguez and his cardiologist.
Well, they're still learning about COVID-19, so it's tough to comment about what it actually does and doesn't do. Let's quickly, brother, let's just take a little reminder break. You're listening to 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. The show you're listening to is From the Press Box, part of the WHPC Sports Talk family. We're on 9 to 10 every Monday. Regular sports talk or other sports talks are Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m., with an additional one on Tuesdays, 10 p.m. to midnight. I am your host, Rob Leonard. Joining me, of course, is my brother and co-host and award-winning sports writer, Tim Leonard. The Mets, brother, I keep forgetting that there's still a bidding war going on for the New York Mets because we thought Steve Cohen was going to get it. Then that sort of faded away. And then A-Rod comes in.
I'm still not sure how.
I'm not sure either. He offered
the most money.
It was a 2.6 for the team. The Wilpons were going to keep the network, and then someone said, "Hey, Steve, the money is made from the network," and so then the bid became $4 billion. But now A-Rod has got some rich friends because, as rich as he is, he has even richer friends. Him and Jennifer Lopez, who I'm pretty sure grew up a Yankee fan. I know he was a Met fan.
Born and raised in the Bronx.
Yeah, so we're seeing that A-Rod, or J-Rod as the papers are called them, might be getting this bid. The bid expires or goes to, I guess, August 31st, which I'm not sure why there's a deadline on this. I mean, maybe they just want to shut it down for the month of September if the Mets on a playoff run or something.
Because you want to drive bidding. You don't want to just let this thing linger and have people have offers coming in late. You have to have some sort of order to the process and say, look, we want your best offer. And not everybody, obviously it's negotiations. And even though you're going against other bidders, you're not going to give your best offer first. You're not going to say, oh, well, hey, I can go as high as, $4 billion. I'll throw that out there right immediately. Because then if they come back and say, well, this guy says he can give us $4.1 billion. What are you going to say? Well, $4 billion was my best offer. Sorry, take it or leave it.
Well,
you don't want to be in that situation.
The thing of this, the whole thing about the Mets ownership, being up for sale is, I expect more people to be trying for this because, first of all, there's only a certain amount of major league teams to own. Second of all, this is New York. It's not like it's the Pittsburgh Pirates or the Kansas City Royals. This is a New York team, and there's a lot of people from New York. But it's also, let's be honest, if you have a team in New York, you're going to probably make more money than if you have a team in Kansas City. And I'm surprised there hasn't been more offers along the way. Two offers doesn't seem like a lot.
There's not that many people who have that many billions of dollars hanging around.
Yeah, but
come on, brother.
Yeah, but
and who have the kind of interest in sports that you need to have to own a team, and that you're talking about
Dodgers
investing significant portions of your financial wealth into
right,
a baseball
I know that, brother.
Team. So,
but then again, when the Dodgers were sold, and that was a few years ago, $2 billion, I guess it was around there. There was a bunch of people going for that. So it just seems like I just expect more of that. More people bidding on this team. I'm not sure. People that say already guessing what might happen. If A-Rod were to get the team, does he run it like Derek Jeter's running the Marlins, or does he have someone do the day-to-day stuff and he comes in?
A-Rod would be that guy. He wants to be Derek Jeter. He would not be the CEO because A-Rod and J-Lo have been listed. Florida Panthers owner Vincent Viola into their group, and also the co-founder of Vitamin Water, Mike Ripoli. I don't know how to pronounce his name, even though he's worth $3 billion. But Viola is worth probably about $5 billion, and J-Rod would be reportedly investing anywhere from $225 to $300 million of their own money, and that's for them. That's significant money. Let's face it. I mean, they are both wealthy, but they do not have limitless funds between them. So
no, I mean, A-Rod's been hanging out with Warren Buffett. I mean, I know they're buddies now, and he wants to be like Warren Buffett. What?
Oh, of course he does. I'm surprised he hasn't gotten Warren Buffett involved. But Warren Buffett,
I'm surprised too. I mean, but I guess
baseball is not the kind of investment that Warren Buffett makes.
No,
so that's why you certainly could get Warren Buffett involved. You could get Bill Gates involved. There's plenty of guys or people who you could get involved, but again, they don't have interest in sports.
Yeah, so you're right.
That's not the investment they're going to make. Even though investing in the Mets seemingly would be a good investment, how many people don't? There aren't a lot of people losing money off of sports franchises. But
for the most part, but if Buffett were to be part of it, he'd make sure that Coke was back at Citi Field. So
that's for sure.
Because he's a big stockholder in Coca-Cola. Plus, he loves Coca-Cola.
Yes.
So that's part of it too. So we'll see what happens with the Mets. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't expect this to happen until after the season's over.
No, it's not going to. Again, the August 31st deadline pretty much prevents that because they're going to have the deadline there. I don't think we're going to have a decision made on the bids and then the negotiations that will happen after that because they're going to need to do a lot of contract language and have issues like that in the negotiations.
No, you're right.
This stuff never happens quickly. But
No.
I tell you what, I was very surprised that A-Rod and his group have seemingly emerged as a favorites, and that's coming from Major League Baseball executives. There was
Right.
a story that was put out. The Post reported it, but USA Today apparently broke it on last Sunday. That they quoted Major League Baseball executives as saying that bid looks like the best one right now.
Right. And let's talk about the Mets as a playing team, because 9-16 means they've played 25 games. It's a 60-game season, I should say. The Mets are in last place. They're not looking good at all. I think, if this week they collapse again, like they have been, the season immediately, I think, is over. I don't mean to say that in a defeatist way, but the season's so short, and if the Mets don't go on a run soon, it's what you need. You need a run in this type of season. I think it's over. I mean,
Yeah, you have to avoid losing streaks, and you have to avoid stretches of bad play. So it's not just, if you lose 7 in a row. Well, you know what? If you lose 8 out of 9, it's just as bad. If you lose 5 even 5 out of 6 is bad. And right now, the Mets are playing bad baseball, and the reason that they're playing bad baseball is because of their pitching staff. Plain and simple.
What pitching staff? Many people might ask.
Well, that's the problem.
They don't have one.
That's the problem. And I've been saying this for several weeks now, because really the loss of Noah Syndergaard, Stroman opting out, that has destroyed the Mets. And they weren't that great coming in, because they needed to sign Rick Porcello and Michael Wacha in the offseason. Wacha just went on the injured list. Porcello has not been effective in most of his starts. And that was a crapshoot. That was a Brody Van Wagenen crapshoot, where he was trying to pick up a couple of guys off the scrap heap who have had success in the major leagues before, and hoping, the old lightning in a bottle theory. But you can't build a pennant-winning team on lightning in a bottle, because look at the Mets now. Their only 2 effective starters have been Jacob deGrom and David Peterson, the rookie.
Yeah. Yep.
And let's face it, Peterson has been good. I'll give him all the credit in the world. Kid's been outstanding. But once major league pitchers start seeing, or major league hitters start seeing a pitcher more than once, and a book starts to form on David Peterson, I want to see his second time against teams, and I want to see if he can maintain what he's done so far, because he's pitched well. But once teams start learning his tendencies and his patterns, chances are he's not going to do as well next month, let's say. But that's it. The Mets have 2 starters, and you're not going to win if you have 2 very good starters and 3 pretty good starters. That's fine. Right now, the Mets have 2. They have 1 elite starter. They have 1 pretty good starter or good starter, and they have trash for the rest of the 3 spots.
No,
that includes Steven Matz. Steven Matz has been terrible. And,
what? At the end of the season, I think, if I'm the Mets, I start to look to get rid of him. If he's not, you have to keep him. He's a guy who, I'll tell you what, scouts loved him when he was coming up in the minor leagues, because there was. I still remember there was I don't remember who did it, but they asked major league scouts or major league GMs, because it was when Syndergaard and Matz were both coming up, and it was like, who would you rather have, Matz or Syndergaard? And Matz was the winner. And part of the reason for that was because he hadn't had any arm surgeries yet, and Syndergaard had, but he had that kind of future. That's what they looked at, is this kid's got great stuff. He might not be throwing 100 like Syndergaard is, but he's got almost as impressive a fastball. He's got great stuff, and he is a guy who we see as being someone who could be ace-like. Right.
And he's terrible this year. He can't get out of his own way. And Steven Matz was a critical guy for this Mets team. He needed to take that leap this year and become a guy who became a regular winner and utilize the talent that he has and became a reliable pitcher for the Mets. And he has done exactly the opposite. He can't get out of his own way.
He's not been what you expected, I guess. I expected more from Mets. I agree with you. What you've read about him over the years coming up and being here, you say, okay, he's had a good run so far, but then this year's just been not very good. Also, what's happened to Pete Alonso?
He's just struggling.
3 home runs, 11 RBI, batting .214. You can't have that.
The power drop was to be expected, but the batting average is a concern because I don't know if that means he's just selling out for home runs and that's the problem, but he really has looked pretty lost at the plate. And it seems like he's starting to come out of it,
right?
But you need to see, a more regular successful at bats because
he actually was in the 190s or something a couple of weeks ago. So
until recently,
so that's why I'm better.
Yeah, that's why I'm encouraged to a certain extent because there have been signs of life. But you look at Yankee fans have been screaming about Gary Sanchez. He's another one who has not looked good, and Gleyber Torres as well. Well, Gary Sanchez hit 3 home runs in 3 games just this last week. He got one against the Braves and 2 against the Red Sox.
Right.
And he's showing signs of coming up. But Gary Sanchez is still batting 133 right now. So that's obviously that's an atrocious batting average. And Gleyber Torres is just, finally starting to get hits and finally starting to look comfortable at the plate. But at the same time, he is currently batting, 254. So he's really kind of broken out. He had a 4-for-4 game against the Red Sox in the first game of the series. So that obviously is going to help a batting average that has less than 100 at bats. But, like I said, against the Red Sox, Gleyber Torres, went 8 for 11 in that series. So again, in early in the season when you don't have 100 at bats yet, you go 8 for 11, your average is going to jump. But more importantly, he's looked comfortable at the plate because for the first 14 or so games, Gleyber Torres did not look comfortable and was chasing pitches and was doing a lot of bad things at the plate. But that's been the problem with Alonso, and the Mets obviously need Alonso to hit, and they need him to be the polar bear. They need him to be that guy. But he's not the only one. I'm not going to sit here and put all of the Mets' problems, 9-14 record, on Pete Alonso, because when your pitchers are giving up 7 and 8 runs a game, I don't care how good your offense is. It's not going to work. You're not going to outscore teams and win 10-9 games every day. It doesn't work that way.
Well, but then again, if Alonso starts hitting, other players start saying, "Oh, wait, maybe our guy's back and we'll feel better," and they start getting better too. So,
hitting is contagious, brother.
Winning is contagious.
Winning is contagious as well.
We should say the Cardinals have returned, and somehow the Miami Marlins are in first place. So
it's been a funky season so far because the Marlins are. What is their record? 9-6, which is shocking because the Miami Marlins are playing .600 baseball. That in itself is shocking. Right. But that the Cardinals right, like we talked about, the Mets are 9-14.
I thought they were 9-16.
No,
they were 9. Oh, I said 16 before by mistake, so I'm sorry.
No problem. But the Yankees are 15-6. So the Mets have played 23 games. The Yankees have played 21 games. The St. Louis Cardinals are 4-4.
Hey, man.
So welcome to life in COVID-19 baseball. The Cardinals have a ton of games to make up. They have in the neighborhood of 15 games to make up. And I don't know how that happens because before the season started, that was one of the things. In fact, Major League Baseball highlighted it as a good thing. We're going to have 60 games in 67 days, and it's just going to be a sprint to the finish. Well, now the Cardinals have to make up 15 games, and there weren't 15 off days to make them up. So now the Cardinals are going to be playing 7-inning doubleheaders a lot. And where do you get pitchers? You can't. You don't rest pitchers for games. You rest them for days. So if you play, let's say you play 3 or 4 doubleheaders in a week because you have to make up games. Well, now you need 8 or 9 starters.
Right. Well, then they changed their 30-man roster.
Well, so those rosters are going to shrink to 28 in a few days. So and
well, they still have 3 more than normal.
I'm not going to give the St. Louis Cardinals any breaks because they were irresponsible enough to wind up with half their team catching COVID. You know, I'm not going to say, oh, well, St. Louis Cardinals, you don't have that COVID thing. We'll give you 32 players because you're going to need a lot of pitchers. No, sorry.
No, they won't do that. But, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe they just play every day and then they have some doubleheaders. And, I mean, should they be 7 inning? No, I think they should be 9.
I think so,
just
too.
like everything else. But
that's actually a huge break for the Cardinals because they won't have to use as many pitchers in those games. You hope you get some length out of your starters, but how many starters are you going to be able to use?
Right, but I also would have allowed Major League Baseball teams to carry 35 players instead of 30. I know why they didn't. You know, Major League numbers, for minor league players, they get more money if they hit the majors and stuff like that. But I would have done it because this is a perfect example of, why you need those extra players. Just because, you save a couple of bucks, but how are you going to finish your season? And what happens if Miami and St. Louis, let's say all of a sudden they just go and, they just go horribly the next 2 weeks and they're totally out of, a chance of winning. Do you just say, well, let's not make up those games. Let's just cancel their season. They play.
They might have to.
Instead of playing 60 games, they play 50 games or something.
52 or whatever.
Whatever.
Let's put it this way: it's entirely possible if either of those teams are eliminated from playoff contention, and it would take a lot to be eliminated from playoff contention because it was only 60 games, and like I said, the Marlins are 9-6, so they're already on the winning side. Right. But in fact, they're a playoff team right now because they're in first place in the National East based on percentage. But if they get to a point where the season, this is what I'm curious about, brother. If a team is let's use the Mets as an example, or the San Francisco Giants, or even like the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are 4-14 right now. That's a terrible record. Who's to say that some of those players on those teams, if they see how the season is going, don't just say, hey, you know what? I'm opting out the rest of the season because we're awful. We have no chance of making the playoffs. So why am I going to stay around here and potentially do damage to my health when we have no chance at doing anything? And that by itself could ruin some of the integrity of the game because if the Mets, let's say Pete Alonso decides to opt out, if the Mets wind up continuing on this path that they're on, well, obviously the Mets are a far weaker team without Pete Alonso. Let's say Jacob deGrom decides to opt out and say, yeah, you know what? I have a baby at home and I have older people. My parents are around. I don't want to potentially put them in harm's way with the virus. I'm going to opt out too. So let's say Jacob deGrom and Pete Alonso decide because the Mets are having such a bad season after 40 games that they say, oh, you know what? I'm opting out.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's a possibility. I'm not sure they would have waited till the end of the season to do it. What's the difference, really? I mean,
well, because you can go home and isolate, and if you're isolating like that, you're not going to catch the virus. Let's face it. Every day that the major league players are out there, they are susceptible because they're in a large group of people. The baseball players have not done the best job of following the protocols. There was supposed to be no spitting. I see players spitting all the time. There was supposed to be no high fives, no contact. That's happening all the time. There wasn't supposed to be the ball after strikeouts. The ball wasn't supposed to be thrown around the infield. I see that happening all the time. These guys are not following the protocols as strictly as they're supposed to be doing it.
Right, but it's tough to remember that all the time, brother. Too. So.
I understand, but again, it's how your season is going to stay alive, and it's how your season is going to be able to continue is by following those protocols. And we haven't seen enough of them being followed where I'm still not confident that baseball is going to be able to finish their season. If another couple of teams...
I'd say this, brother, because if you take away the Cardinals and the Marlins and the Phillies, I guess it's been pretty good.
And the Brewers.
So, what?
The Brewers had some games there too where they had to postpone some games. But
4 teams out of 30. That's pretty good.
It's pretty good, but if we get a couple more outbreaks, let's say we got another team. Let's say in September another team has to postpone 7 to 10 games. Now what are you doing? Because now you're running out of time to make them up.
Well, yeah, that's true. I think they want to end the season when they're originally going to end the season.
Right.
So.
But suppose that team. Let's say it's the Yankees, or let's say it's the Dodgers, teams that you know already are going to the playoffs.
Right.
Now they're not going to delay the season. So do they make the decision if the Yankees have to make up 6 or 7 games towards the end of the season? Do they just say, all right, you know what, we're not playing those games because we don't have time to play them? And if you're in second place, well, too bad, because that's what it is.
No, that's a good point, brother. That's a good point. Anyway,
these decisions are still left to be made.
Anyway, brother, coronavirus. We're talking about college football.
I don't like it.
Big Ten and the Pac-12 cancel their fall seasons.
No, don't say the word cancel, brother. Don't say the word cancel.
Oh, I'm sorry. Move.
Well, they have postponed, brother. Postponed fall sports.
Is postponed. But they canceled their fall season. Let's put it that way.
Well,
but have they said if it's all sports or if it's just college football?
Yes, all fall sports have been postponed.
Okay, so
postpone is a key word here, because I'm sure some of those sports are going to be canceled. The sports that aren't on TV and the sports that don't make those schools millions of dollars. But the Big Ten and the Pac-12, I know, are still hoping to play college football, but they would like to push it to the spring. And basically what they're doing with this move, and I applaud the move, but basically what they're doing is just buying time. And because we're still trying to figure out how to do it and can we do it, but this just buys those conferences and those colleges time. And right now time is
but that's all
what
have. Every sport has been doing, and eventually you have to try to come back. And like the Major League Baseball, hockey, and the basketball, both men and the women's, and WNBA and NBA, and they're trying at least. I mean, I'm not sure how you would do it for college, only because of campuses and kids are 20 years old and they're gods at that point. So virtual learning. But it's to me, it's impossible. To keep kids in a bubble. I do have some friends who have kids who go into college, and they brought them down this weekend. They are going to be going to school. Nassau Community College we're not, but we're not back
the dorms.
In the station.
The dorms are open. My buddy Mark Nemero brought his daughter to campus this week, and they found out there was a 14th floor on Tower F, which there is, or excuse me, I don't know what they call it now. They used to call it Freedom Tower, but
you're talking about Hofstra University.
Hofstra University, yes, at Hofstra University. But they're again. I've heard the Miami coach, the University of Miami, who says that the players are safer on campus and at a practice, and he actually studied tape from last year to determine how often the players are not socially distanced during practice.
Right.
And found out that it was minutes. It was probably in the area of, I think he said, about 6 minutes, which is kind of encouraging in some ways, but it's everything else. It's being on campus. And can you trust kids that age? If you can't trust NBA and NHL, and we have a story that I wanted to touch on before we leave, and NFL players to be responsible in bubble situations, how you can't put college football players in a bubble like that. No. Because they need to get from point A to point B. They don't have the financial resources that the NHL and the NBA and the NFL have, and Major League Baseball as well. So I don't understand how these coaches say that they can guarantee player safety. And I go back to Rutgers. There was a time a few weeks ago where Rutgers University's football team had 45 cases of COVID-19. How do you prepare for a season when more than half your roster has COVID-19?
It's tough, brother, but I think I think some of these coaches are going to try this as a crapshoot, saying, "Okay, let's see what we can do." And there's a lot. Timmy, there's a lot of money from college football, even for a team like Rutgers. There's a lot of money involved.
Yeah, of course. So, now Rutgers in the Big Ten, yes, there's a lot of money involved.
So I think that's part of it. It is
part of it, but the coach's job is supposed to be to look after these kids. And I think it's irresponsible to sit here and the coaches say, well, if we send them home, they have a better chance of catching it. And this way, and the players, Trevor Lawrence said, well, if a player catches it on campus, then the financial aspect of who takes care of these players is on the school, not on the player's family. And a lot of the players come from impoverished backgrounds, and that would actually be helpful for them because now they won't be on the hook for however much it costs to treat this thing.
No, that's a good point.
And I see some of what they're saying, but right. I still can't see how you're going to be able to play football in a responsible way that guarantees that players aren't going to be able to catch this thing.
Okay, brother, we have 3 minutes. 3 minutes left. You wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this bizarre story, brother. An NFL rookie who already has torpedoed his football career. His name is Kemah Siverand. He tried to sneak a woman into his hotel. He was signed by the Seattle Seahawks. His signing bonus, brother, was $2,000. That might be the only money he ever makes in the NFL. Because the Seahawks waived this kid earlier this week. He was caught on video trying to sneak a woman into the team's hotel. The strangest part about this is she was dressed up in Seahawks gear and attempting to disguise herself as a player. This is one of the weirdest stories I've heard in a long time. All right. But this kid, cornerback, undrafted out of Oklahoma State, like I said, $2,000 signing bonus, which was the third smallest bonus among the Seahawks' 17 undrafted free agents. That's from ESPN.com. In other words, brother, he's one of the most expendable members of the team.
Right.
And now he doesn't have a team. Sneaking a woman. A guy who's in that position, all right, because the NFL is trying to maintain something of a bubble. But for Siverand to try and sneak a strumpet into the team hotel, it's too stupid for this to believe. Putting the safety what go
and usually he's already bringing a girl. He's not even on the team basically. You at least wait till you get on the team. Then you at least have a hotel room to bring her to.
That's the point. He's jeopardizing the safety of his teammates. Could be jeopardizing the season because let's face it, if the NFL has outbreaks, they might not even start the season. If he can't grasp that, he's not mature enough to be in the NFL. And this is why I was talking before about college students because they're even less mature than this guy. All right, but the second thing I wanted to point out, this guy
hurry up, brother.
Clearly thought he could get away with this idiotic stunt, or he thought if he got caught that there wouldn't be any consequences. He's a nobody who signed for tip money. So yes. I don't understand it. It was one of the more bizarre stories of the week.
That's true. And training camp has started or will be starting this week. By the way, brother, I have a new nickname for the new Giants coach, Joe Judge. I have a feeling he'll be known as Joe the Judge. Anyway, we're going to end the show on that. You're listening to 90.3 WHPC from the press box here every Monday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. This show becomes a podcast later on Spreaker and all podcast places. My name is Rob Leonard. Joining me, of course, is my brother and award-winning sports writer, Tim Leonard. Take care, and thanks for showing Novat for keeping us on the air. See you next time. Bye-bye.